began to make a daisy chain. I had arrived at my 5th daisy when the chancel door opened and the vicar appeared. The breeze caught the edge of his surplice, and he billowed like sheets on a washing line. I watched him march across the graveyard to retrieve an empty crisp packet, and when he returned to the doorway, he took off his shoe and banged it on the church door to get rid of the grass cuttings. I didn't realise something like that would be allowed. "Why do people disappear?" I said to him from behind the gravestone. He didn't stop banging, but slowed down and looked over his shoulder. I realised he couldn't see me. I stood up. "Why do people disappear?" I said again. The vicar replaced his shoe and walked over to me. He was taller than he had been in church and very earnest. The lines on his forehead were carved and heavy, as though his face had spent its entire time trying to sort out a really big problem. He didn't look at me, but stared out over the gravestones instead. "Many reasons," he said eventually. It was a rubbish answer. I'd found that answer all by myself, and I didn't even have God to ask. "Such as?" "They wander from the path. They drift off course." He looked at me and I squinted up at him through the sunshine. "They become lost." I thought about the Ernests and the Mauds and the Mabels. "Or they die," I said. He frowned and repeated my words. "Or they die," he said. The vicar smelt exactly the same as the church. Faith had been trapped within the folds of his clothes, and my lungs were filled with the scent of tapestry and candles. "How do you stop people from disappearing?" I said. "You help them to find God." He shifted his weight and gravel crunched around his shoes. "If God exists in a community, no one will be lost." I thought about our estate, the unwashed children who spilled from houses, and the drunken arguments that tumbled through windows. I couldn't imagine God spent very much time there at all. "How do you find God?" I said. "Where is he?" "He's everywhere." "Everywhere." He waved his arms around to show me. "You just have to look." "And if we find God, everyone will be safe," I said. "Of course." "Even Mrs. Creasy?" "Naturally." A crow unfolded itself from the roof of the church, and a murderous cry filled the silence. "I don't know how God can do that," I said. "How can he keep us from disappearing?" "You know that the Lord is our shepherd, Grace. We are just sheep. Only sheep. If we wander off the path, we need God to find us and bring us home." I looked down at my feet whilst I thought about it. Grass had buried itself in the weave of my socks and dug sharp red lines into my flesh. "Why do people have to die?" I said. But when I looked up, the vicar was back at the chancel door. "Are you coming for tea at the church hall?" he shouted. I didn't really want to. I'd rather have gone back to Tilly. Her mother didn't believe in organised religion and was worried we'd all be brainwashed by the vicar, but I had to agree, or it would have been a bit like turning down Jesus. "Okay," I said, and picked the blades of grass from my knees. I walked behind Mrs. Morton along the lane between the church and the hall. The verge was thick with summer, stitchwort and buttercups, and towering foxgloves which blew clouds of pollen from rich purple bells. The breeze had dropped, leaving us in a razor of heat which cut into the skin at the top of my arms and made speaking too much of an effort. We trudged in a single line, silent pilgrims drawn towards a shrine of tea and digestives, all strapped into